Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here. Today, I'll be talking with Dave Coggin. Dave runs PFA Baseball in California. He was a former first-round pick in the '95 draft, pitched in the big leagues for 3 years with a couple different teams. Dave does an amazing job with player development, teaching them the game. We're going to dive into his career, his story, talk about the mental game. And if you are enjoying these episodes, of course, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any new episodes coming out. And of course, make sure you check out my online personal development and mental skills course at mentaledge.training. Enjoy this episode with Dave Coggin. We were on the same area code team, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's
we
when
were. I think so. Yeah, that was a weird whole world for me because I was in football mostly at that time, and then I didn't know what area code was, and some dude said, "Hey, you should try out for this thing," and
Right.
I literally hadn't played a baseball. Hadn't played a game all summer, nothing. I was just doing football, and I
Right.
somehow made this team, and then I go down and I see all these dudes. I'm like, damn, there's good players all around here.
Yeah, because we didn't. I don't think any of us knew like how big the area coach was. It was kind of pretty new, a
Right.
couple years into it, I think, and heck, we had Jimmy Rollins. I mean, there's some really good players
Yeah.
that ended up on that team, and I'm sure for you that it blew up for me after that.
That was huge.
So
Yeah.
I hadn't committed to school yet, and all types of
me
things
too.
happened. So now
Yeah.
now if you don't go into area codes
Oh,
committed already, you're like, what's going on
yeah.
with this guy?
What you mean underclass area codes?
Right,
If
right.
you're not committed.
A little different now. I want to learn more about what you do this pocket path, right? What
Oh
you
yeah.
guys teach, and
Have you seen my invention that I'm about to
no,
roll out? Like um, the concept of the pocket path is something you're so familiar with because you probably never even thought about it for a second. You just threw the ball because I always pattern all my pitchers' habits as be a shortstop.
okay,
So I'm always like, dude, a shortstop can go play any position on the field, and not just because his arm is strong, but he's accurate, and the arm is strong, and he can do things in a short amount of space and throw the ball hard and accurate. So that's what a pitcher does all the time.
yeah,
So then I when I started to look at like the top pitchers ever in the game, the ones that had the longest career, not like just really good, really short careers, but just really long careers, they all were shortstops or quarterbacks when they were younger. And then they all looked similar in the way the sequence of the arm path works. So if you shortstop, you grab the ball without thinking about it, you catch, you turn, the elbow leads, the ball follows, and it's just a whip. That's
right,
what a whip does, right?
right,
So when I was looking at how they teach kids all the time, when they're younger, is the cobra drills and all these things. Is the big problem with that is they become what's called ball dominant. So they take the ball up there quick, and then they drop the elbows and they do all kinds of things. The sequences are all crazy, especially if they're just a pitcher,
right,
because then they're doing that drill all the time. They're doing these rocker drills, they're doing all these things, and they're just becoming ball dominant. Then I saw the weighted ball phenomenon starting to come, where everybody was kind of taking the ball inside their ears and just doing a lot of pronation work drills. They were doing that with almost every one of their drills. So then all of a sudden they became ball dominant in a different way.
right.
And I was just like, what are we missing here? Something's not right. And I just started looking and thinking, like, what do the shortstops do when they play catch? Like, no one teaches a shortstop really how to throw. They teach you like everything else, like anticipation, ground balls, blah blah blah, all this different stuff. But rarely are you guys like doing drills for throwing. Yet all you guys throw exactly the same. And then I thought to myself, well, everybody throws the same. If you tell them like, hey, flip a ball to them and just throw as quick as you can and accurate as you can, they just grab it, boom, and I just started slowing the arm path
Right.
like an athlete. So I started throwing the arm. So then I started seeing the patterns develop where the sequence was the elbow was always following the hand, or the hand was always following the shoulder of the elbow, and all in a sequence, right? It's just one smooth sequence. Like the ball was the last thing. So then that's what I started kind of teaching. And once I started teaching that, it was fixing like all these young kids who weren't super strong to do it wrong. And I always say like relievers, no reliever had this, dilemma where a coach looked at him and said, man, you throw 4 pitches for strikes. You get stronger as the game goes. You stay healthy. You have the strongest arm on the team. Let's make you a reliever. Nobody does that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You become a reliever for negative reasons, most likely. You get lefties out, but not righties out. You get through the lineup one time good, but not the second, third. You get injuries all the time. Your velocity dies down. You have one pitch, but you don't have anything else after that. So like, there's all these like more negative reasons. So I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna look at those guys. I want to look at the dudes that get $300 million, $200 million, 20-year careers, and then you started seeing like, wow, there's a lot of similar. They're not so different anymore. And just like the shortstops were, I know as an eye of a shortstop, you probably can see a lot of subtleties, but just as a general whole, if you take a ball in the backhand in the back in the hole, and you have to plant and throw the ball without a shuffle or anything, you will do every shortstop will do exactly the same thing. Yeah. And they'll block the front leg, they'll get that arm path, which is what we call the pocket, and you'll fire that thing, and the landing is the stick. That's the lead leg blocking. So that's what we started to base it off of, because pitchers have to do that every pitch. They don't get the crow hop, they don't get the shuffle, they just have one little leg kick and go. So that's kind of like where it started. So then so I worked with this guy who was a pitcher in Japan, older guy who's really kind of a smart guy who has entrepreneur kind of type of mindset. And he goes, have you ever thought about making something that parents can take home? Because it's like, man, after listening to what you just worked on with my son, I was just thinking, and I go to Little League practice like right after that, and I was like watching just the crap that was out there, and I go, oh my God, these parents need something, these coaches need something. And so anyway, I said, yeah, I had this idea where if you think of a quarterback, remember in cold weather, he has that kind of belt on that has that pouch, right? Okay. So I've always thought, like, if you put a baseball in that pouch and then you took it out and threw the ball on one motion, it guides you. You can't do it. You can't take it this way. You can't take it that way. It'll go one motion, and you just angle it. So you angle it about a 45-degree angle and just go up and throw. Okay. And it was just like such a simple idea. And then he was like, well, what about a shirt that actually you can wear that has Velcro, basically the pile, they call it, all over the front of the chest, so you can put it anywhere. So you have the sleeve. So I have a sleeve, and it's just on your arm. And then you can just go through your motion like you're taking a ground ball to your belly. And then you just take your hand out of it, but that will stay there. So now you have this cylinder sleeve that's perfectly now angled to where it was comfortable for you, because you just took that ground ball. And now you just put your hand in it, and then you start doing drills. And now you do all your light and low intent fly ball drills that we do. You do dry work, whatever it is, but you start ingraining this pattern of fluidness rather than this stop pattern, which was a camera that took a picture of a baseball card or a magazine picture. It wasn't a stop position. It was a freaking camera sitter that took that. Right. So that fluid thing is not where you want to get a player to stop. You want that. My hand gets there, but it gets there in a fluid motion, doesn't stop. So that's kind of what we, curated. And I've had it, there's about 6-7 teams that now are using my prototypes. And I've always used it. So it's like tons of hundreds of players have used it. It's like ridiculously simple and right. Very, very effective. I'll send you a video.
No, that's great. Because the videos that I've watched, I sit there and, because as a scout, mm-hmm. we sit there and analyze arm swings and arm path and how long, short, medium strokes, mm-hmm. all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I would agree, like when it's just kind of, you might get a full circle out of it, but it's mm-hmm. it's just kind of short and it's
just fluid. Yeah. Fluid. It's the key. The key to the pocket is where the elbow is when hips start to rotate, and where the ball is relative to that. So mm-hmm. what happens is guys will stab out, because they're pushing off, so they'll stab out or they'll come right back. So you'll take a picture and go, oh, okay, their elbow's right here, but their knees collapsing, or their body's too far forward. Their body is too big to do something different. It does literally the same thing every time. It's a mm-hmm. huge, big mass. It's the arm that gets us kind of like, it takes our vision away from it, because if you got rid of that, he would have been here. But by the way, he would have been here with his weight. But because he's doing this, then coming here, you look at it on the computers and you go, oh yeah, he's late. His weight is way right. far forward. Hey, right. Stay back, son. You need to stay back. He didn't need to stay back. He needed to get here on time, so he needed to get rid of wasted movement. And you won't believe how many people I see that fix the arm path, and not to be short or anything. It's not, everyone thinks because I work with Joe Kelly and he made such a big difference. It's not even close to what Joe Kelly was, what we really teach. I have hundreds of other pitchers that look nothing like Joe Kelly, but are just as successful. That it's only because we're creating a habit like you guys do in shortstops, is you always get your elbow in the right position and throw. Like, you don't even know you're doing it. You just do it. Mm-hmm. You can be jumping. You could be running forward. You could be anything. But your body knows when my hips start to open to rotate to throw, my arm better be right here. That's just repetition that you've never thought about. So
Yeah.
that's why I give those kind of like athletic drills, but mistake is like most teams do is they give you the athletic drills. It's, oh, I've hit that pitcher like 100 ground balls. He looks amazing at shortstop and he throws the ball beautifully. And then you get him on the mound and he's back to doing this because you never told him why. He
Right.
just knows, yeah, that felt better. And you go, hey, it looks better. Why? Like, what is the reason? And then now, can you set up drills that I can do before I go waste a bunch of crappy warm-up throws? You know, I say that about pitchers all the time. Is they imagine the hitting coach going down and telling the hitting groups, he says, Chad, you're in group 1. You're gonna hit at on Thursday at 3:00. With those 4 guys, hey, you guys, you're going to be group 2. I want you hitting on Friday at 2:30, and then blah blah blah. You go down the list, and then you walk away, and everybody's looking at each other. Well, what the hell? What do we do on all the other days? And he goes, oh, my bad, guys, just go down the left field line and take the worst swings possible every day.
Right.
Sounds like what pitchers do every day when they
Yeah.
go warm up, and then they throw a bullpen with a coach once a week, like freaking
With
stupid,
no
right?
with no plan in between.
No,
Right.
it's backwards. It's all backwards. So we try to fill that, just give them a plan that's individual for them, but it has a foundation of what do the best do that play the longest, you know, and what's your interpretation of it, because your interpretation can be a little bit different, subtle differently, but you better be in that 2 position. Hips are the 3, 4 is a layback. That's what we kind of call it. So it's just a sequence, just timing a sequence. It's all the pocket is. Whether you're a longer arm guy, whether you're a really short compact guy, it doesn't matter to me. It's just, are you in the right position? It's super easy to see because that's where we say with the stick in your landing, the sticking of your landing becomes the barometer of how well are you timed. So when I see a guy who can plant on front foot, throw the ball, and and that foot stays there for a longer time. Like there's something you can see as you over and over if you watch it. The front foot plants and stays there. That means he's got beautiful timing. He's in the right spot. He's almost become like a pole vaulter that's put that pole right in the right spot to where it stays, but the rest of the body is gaining energy, and then making a gold medal jump. If it kind of slides, or if it stays it's just real quick and goes, then essentially that pitcher is mistimed somewhere, and that front lead leg will tell you where to go back in the chain and start to look. And typically, if you look at the arm path, that'll be your first clue. Not everything, it'll be just first, because once that's checked off the list, I just move down the list of now, okay, arm path looks good. I don't know, okay, good, that's good. Then I'll start going, okay, what's the lower half? What's the hips doing? Where's his weight? All that. Yeah, okay, oh, that's an easy fix. But if I try to fix the stuff over there on the end first and then gone back to see, it'd be like you trying to fix a guy's hips and a hitter, but yet he's stabbing his arm around and doing all this crazy stuff before he hits. Like you would go, no. Or a golfer, right? You never would
Right.
see a golfer have a 1,000 different odd things and just say, oh, everybody does it differently. That's just how he was born. No, that's how you become a reliever. Or,
Yeah.
you know, or your career is short. Either way.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So for you yourself, did you recognize that as while you were playing, or did you do it automatically, or did that come later?
Totally after. Yeah, no, it was way after. In fact, now when I look at my delivery, which was when I was told I had great mechanics, and I look at it and I go, it looks pretty, but there are some big misses. I would push my hand around away. I would never want guys to do that. So I would become late into the pocket. So I'd have what would look on the appearance a good arm path from all the football throwing, all that stuff I'd thrown. But because some reason I was always trying to push here and drop down and drive, I was creating more time. And then by the time I got my arm back up, I'm way late, put stress on my shoulder, 2 shoulder surgeries, short career. So I know that really easily now. So no, not till I started, way after. First thing that got me thinking of mechanics, but it wasn't anything to do with the pocket, was I was down at USC and I was the basically a intern, or whatever you want to call it, with Tom House and his brand new RDRBI stuff. And the only thing I was doing down there, and I never met him before, but someone said he needed help, and I had just been released. So I went down there, and he knew my quarterback background, so he was working with a lot of quarterbacks. So I was down there working with some of the guys down there, Tom Brady and Alex Smith and some of these dudes. And then they had the Indian kids that came from India, and they did the movie about $1 Million Arm, all that. So I was their coach for that summer. And what it got me thinking was, like, biomechanics and slow motion analysis. And I didn't per se have all the same things that I thought were what he was doing with Tom, but I was like thinking more like, man, I'm just going to start thinking a little harder here and just start doing a little of my own homework and just think. And I've always been kind of a common sense guy, so I think that's what's been hard about playing Major League Baseball. When you have common sense, it's hard to be around. So, so I think just kind of like it, just I wanted to not question everything, but just I wanted to forget everything in a sense, and then just kind of go out and learn some more and learn about the body. I started PFA that way because PFA wasn't a travel ball team for 10 years. It's only last 6 months it's been a travel ball team, but what it was a strength training facility for getting athletes rotationally stronger and using a different concept, a different way of doing it, which a lot of people do it now. But that was the genesis of it. So then knowing all those things, certain things didn't make sense because I knew more about the physical biomechanics now. So learning it was kind of almost relearning everything.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can learn after you're done playing, right?
If you're willing to, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Being open to
Mm-hmm.
all the new info. So PFA, now what does PFA stand for?
Yeah, preparation, fitness, and attitude. But it was prevention fitness for athletes was the original thing. So I got done playing. I was one of those players, like everybody knows that the story. I had surgery, came out of surgery, was throwing 4 or 5 miles an hour harder than I was before surgery. So when I got done playing, I was like, well, obviously everybody kind of knows why. I mean, you're doing so much more physical therapy, which is like the smaller muscle groups, the core more, instead of the big beach body muscles now that you were just kind of doing just because how off seasons were. They just kind of give you a random program, but usually just went to the gym and just, worked out. Mm-hmm. So I created a plan that involved all those small muscle groups, all the band work, all the core work, medicine ball throwing, and which is super common now. But 10 years ago, this was very like different because the workouts were like 90 minutes because I knew I had to cover a lot of stuff. And I asked a friend of mine who was my therapist at a physical therapy, I said, can you, when you close at 7, can I come in at 7 and take some athletes that are healthy and take them through a whole program? So they were like, yeah, just go for it. So I did it. It grew from there, kept growing, grew out of that space, grew into another space. And then it just kind of, went crazy when we decided to make teams. And the reason why I decided to make teams was the baseball in our area in Inland Empire is always been known as a really hotbed of a lot of talent. And definitely it was when we were just getting going. And for the first 7-8 years, guys were training a lot. They were really putting a lot of time in the strength conditioning because we had a formula that nobody was doing. And it was fun too. We have a good time when we do it. So you had all these guys getting drafted and we had first round picks. We had 30 to 40 D1 pitchers and fielders and position players in there. Just tons of talent. And then travel ball at that point really was just a weekend thing. So we had all week, they could get 3 workouts in, 3 lifts. Then one travel ball team started to work out on a field on Wednesdays. So we would clash because all their best players, I used to give them the best players or recommend, hey, that's a good program. Go ahead and play there. Well, now those really talented players were being asked, hey, by the travel ball team, hey, you got to come on Wednesday. Well, Wednesday was our big lift day. That was a really important middle of the week day.
Yeah.
Well, they would just guilt trip them and all this stuff. So it was just a pain in the butt. Well, it was manageable, but the problem was that team, because they had a baseball field, which was kind of a new concept, everybody else started making a practice night. And then, of course, what happens? We have 2 practices on a field, and of course, these practices, they're like 800 people on the field. And so that's when the gym just got empty. And all these programs who have all these great, on the surface, oh, we have the national champion, blah, 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 this, who, most likely had a dad that paid for the entire team to be the best players to fly in and play in tournaments.
Right.
So I was like, hey, this is a terrible. And then you start to see like, not as many D1s, but some D2s. Oh, not as many D2s either. Oh, D3s. Oh, and every now and again you pop a draft pick somewhere around in here. Okay. But not like when we before had 15, 16 draft picks each year for like 5 straight years up here. Then it was turning into a very 5 or 6, and And it was just purely because they were being guilted into go to another batting cage at some place over in this city, a field at this city, another agility coach goes. So now they're adding $20 to your monthly dues because they're bringing out a strength coach, which is just a former player who does agility work. And yeah, it just this whole spiral. And I was like, this is garbage. So then that's truly why I decided I'm going to make my own teams, because if I make my own teams, and really I was going to just make like 4 or 5 close here, age groups up, and now I can tell them, hey, no, Tuesday, Thursdays, you're in the weight room, and Wednesdays you might be in the cage, or maybe after you work out, you're in the cage. You're not going to just go out to field practices and just never work out. So when we did that, people jumped on it like crazy because parents knew, they're like, this doesn't feel right. Probably, they're like, man, my kid's the skinniest kid out there, and or a player who has a really good son that's a really good player and he gets it. He's like, man, I don't need all these practices like this. I need to get my boy in working out because he's smart.
Right.
He's paid attention. He's listened to scouts, and so we felt like we could give the best of both worlds, and that's kind of where we're at right now, is just trying to develop a mindset. And it's really been cool because our younger teams are really getting it, because they're sixth, seventh, eighth graders, and they don't drive, they don't know everything in the world like the sophomore and junior and seniors do it. Right.
Right.
So we're building those guys mindsets to go, dude, I'm not missing the day in the gym. I love it. So it's been really cool to see. It's been a big change, I think. And I think that the talent is going to show it in the next probably 2 or 3 years back up here, rather than it just be a bunch of, stud freshmen and I'll fizzle out.
Right.
I've seen it for years, because these travel ball teams just don't value the workouts. They value the membership numbers is really what they value, championships and things.
That tournament, it's every like two tournaments a month type thing. And
Yeah, which they need. I mean, I get it. That's competition. It's fun, but it sometimes is it's if they knew really the conversations that the head people, the people in charge, were really having, off the field, about how can we get this kid developed, how can we get better. That's not the questions a lot of them are having. They're just like, man, how do we get another kid on the team? How can we start another team? It's an interesting racket that I'm just being thrown into for the first time, and
no,
they're getting crazy. Like, we have a lot of teams now, and I'm just like, they got to this Zoom now, because before this I was like, how do I control this? Because
right.
how do I have my message be distributed everywhere? Because I get this all the time when you, like, just like you said, like, oh, we played one of your teams, and I'm like, I keep my fingers crossed, like, oh god, is this gonna be good or bad? Because I don't even. It went so fast. There's like 30
Right.
teams overnight, and I'm like, oh crap! Please tell me we have some people who know what PFA started as and what it's about. And not all of them do, but they're getting that. This Zoom is going to help us, because we can have these coaches meetings from
Yeah.
all over the city, the state, the country, hopefully in some point. So
No,
it's
that's good.
interesting.
Yeah, because obviously you want to build something that can give all aspects of the game, the weight training,
Yeah.
mental
Mm-hmm.
side, the practices, and just put it all together. And
Yeah.
as a parent, that's all you can ask, right? It's just get it all together and
True.
have the right people around it. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk about you as a player. I wanted you to share your story about how you got drafted, what the minor leagues was like. What struggles did you go through? We're getting people to open up about, hey, this is a really
Mm-hmm.
hard game. And
Yeah.
what did you go through that, and just kind of tell your story.
Yeah, so I was drafted out of high school. And going back a little further, I was mostly football, soccer guy. So
Mhm.
those two sports were my bigger sports. Baseball was always a fun sport. I was good at it still, but I wasn't like the best at it or anything. Um, Football was more of a street game where I played all the time. Got to high school, tried out for the football team, made the football team, but it was new to me. I never played Pop Warner, so I was kind of a third string quarterback and just kind of on freshman team. They ran the wishbone and all these different things. So I didn't, I was a thrower. So I just, stuck back, learned and got stronger and all that. Then I went to soccer. Soccer I was really natural at, so I was really good at that. So that was my best sport. So I played soccer. Then baseball, had a good baseball season. And then my sophomore year, all over the summer, we had a new football coach come in. He threw the ball a lot. So I ended up making varsity and doing a lot of good things in football, became kind of on the map football. And then that took over because football's so, time consuming. So that took over a lot. Baseball was still there. It was still good, but I was having to kind of squeeze out soccer. So by my senior year, I committed to Clemson as a quarterback for football. And then by late in the year, I kind of came on really late, kind of what we talked about before about area codes. No one really knew who I was on the baseball side of things. I was more known for football. So during Hell Week, I would practice in the morning, come down, play at a game at area codes, then go back and practice my second practice for Hell Week for football. And in between all that, I'd never lifted a wooden bat or anything. I went down there and I got a couple of hits and threw on the mound, and I hadn't even pitched a bullpen, who knows when. So I was just throwing footballs everywhere, but I ended up doing really well. And then all of a sudden everybody in baseball knew, like, whoa, who's this guy on there? So that kind of really blossomed and took off. Then my senior year, of course, June came around. I got drafted by the Phillies and signed to go Philadelphia, skipped football, skipped college. And then, and then in my senior year, I did tear my MCL, my knee. So that played a huge role in my direction to go play baseball. So without that injury, I'd probably be playing football. And Clemson would have had a lot more national championships, by the way, by then. So
yeah.
my football memory.
Right.
So yeah, no, but anyway, so it all worked out good. So anyway, but the thing, I go to minor leagues, and as you know, it's a absolute kind of slap in the face when you're out there and you're playing all these games. You got coaches and players around you that are college kids, and coaches that are salty and already kind of maybe have a little a little bit of dig on you because you're a first round pick, and they already, some coaches are really cool about it, some other ones are kind of testing you, and some other ones just don't like you. And you have to navigate through all those different things, and I had trouble doing that in single A in was it Carolina, South Atlantic League in Kannapolis, where I was really struggling. I had a pitching coach that just couldn't have been a worse guy in my life. And it wasn't because he was trying to teach me any lessons. He was just a bad dude. So, it's just one of those guys that would just, yeah, it does. It does. And then combine that with pitching poorly, combine that with throwing in Macon, Georgia, and Columbus, Georgia in the summertime, and Augusta, as you know, all those, and how hot it is. And being in the South, I was in, oh, by the way, my roommate was Ricky Williams, which you remember, the running back for Texas and Miami and New Orleans. So he would go back and play football, and then he'd come back in the summer and play with us. So then I would throw the football to him to get him ready to go back to football. And, a combination of all those things, I was just like, God, is this the right decision I made? So there was just a come to Jesus moment in Macon, Georgia, where I had to run 36 poles because I gave up, I had an 0-2 pitch and a hitter made contact on it. He fouled it off. And that pitching coach just flew off this lid and said, we never let anybody touch an 0-2 pitch. You need to bury that thing. And, and it was one of those things. I was trying to, I made a mistake. He didn't hit it or anything, but the coach at the end, they gave me 36 poles, and I'm just, I was a hard worker. So I ran those poles freaking hard as I ran the last one, just ran as hard as I did the first one. And then I had to go to the hospital later for dehydration and everything. And I just was thinking to myself, when I got back to the hotel, I was like, I just called the GM or the manager. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go play football. Because, there was a lot of fans that were Clemson fans that were still trying to get me to go and play football. They're like, hey, man, play some football out there in the South. And so I thought maybe I made a wrong decision. So I made that night. I said, I'm going to give money back and I'm going to go play football. And Roy Matika, our manager, he got freaked out, obviously. You don't want the first round pick to be saying this. I realize that now. And he called the GM, and they got on the phone, conference call, and just said, hey, listen, man, we put you up there to fail for this year. Don't worry. We don't expect you to do good. You're playing against guys that are older than you, and you're raw, and just, you're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. And when he heard that from people above, finally, because all I was around was just negativity. Yeah. Once you finally heard from someone above you who was the boss of that guy, and guys around you that, maybe weren't the best soldiers or teachers, it just kind of like took a huge weight off my shoulders. And I actually finished off really good in the season and stuck with it. And it was just one of those moments that stands with me for a long time, because it's not just perseverance or anything, but it was a learning lesson to know that not only if you keep working hard, you're meant to be there. You're supposed to be there. There's a reason why you were drafted there. But it was more about there's other people that cared for you, that wanted you to do well and succeed. And I think that was the most important piece of that.
Yeah, it's tough when the coaches have different ways of teaching you, right? Whether they're trying to
Yeah.
motivate you, make you work harder, but when they're not behind you and they
Yeah.
don't have your back, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah. And that was always different. I mean, I'm from football and soccer. So, I mean, I've had baseball coaches are cake, piece of cake for any of that stuff. Yeah, you're right. This was a different type of just aura and just negativity that just took all the fun out of baseball and just took it. And then, so going forward, okay, so I had an injury, shoulder surgery a year or two later, in AA, battling through that. It was tough. Finally got surgery, came back, and felt like I had a new lease on life, and went from AA to the big leagues, and pitching there for about 2+ years or so. And then I had another injury in the shoulder, which at that time it was a labrum surgery that I had at the beginning, did it, came back stronger than I ever did. The next surgery I had was a labrum again. And this goes back to like what I was telling you earlier. Now I know why I had those problems, even though nobody was kind of addressing any of those. But once I had that surgery, that second one, I got down to surgery. Doctor came in, said, "Hey, surgery went great. Your old repair looks great. This new repair looks solid." Did the same thing, but we did this new procedure, which was a capsule shrinkage of the shoulder. So where they take the shoulder and they think it's too loose, so what they do is they kind of take a little hot wand, like almost taking a little fire to Reynolds wrap, and they just scorch you, and it just sits there like that, right? So he's describing this, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, "Yeah, it should be good. It'll be maybe a month longer on your rehab, but we think this would be a really good thing for your shoulder." So I'm like, "Oh, what are you gonna see?" He's the doctor.
Yeah.
And man, that was the worst. I was like a guinea pig for it. I didn't realize that was like one of the first time they did that. And then they did it for about 6 months of baseball players, and it ruined everybody's career, all of them. And then before they knew it, they had to stop that surgery. So I just happened to be in that window, and I never could recover from that surgery, no matter how hard I worked. So that kind of led me to the passion that I had after, though, and got me into what was then called PFA, prevention fitness for athletes, because I had this passion, this desire to try to get kids not to get injured. Yeah. And that was the big deal. And then that's how I got into it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I went through the same thing. My downfall was the labrum surgery as an outfielder, and I had that, and it was not even close to the same. Guys can deal with Tommy John. We're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of success with it. Still a horrific surgery. When people talk about, I'll just get Tommy John just to get it out of the way. Like, no. This is.
I know. It's crazy.
Let's just stay healthy first. Figure out how to stay healthy and get the workouts behind it. And so that's awesome. So when you were in the big leagues, now you probably pitched with the likes of like Curt Schilling.
Yeah.
I would imagine guys like that. Were there any of those type of guys that kind of took you under your wing and taught you about the big leagues? How do I pitch in the big leagues?
Yeah, Curt Schilling was good. Mike Grace was another guy who was really good. Not Mike Grace, no relation, but they're some guys are more, they're more animated about it. Some guys, they kind of give you the opening to come in and be a part. Hey, come run with me, or they may not say anything to you.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go throw, and they may not say a word to you, but that's their way of showing you how it's done. And I think that's a real powerful way of doing it as well, rather than just being the more vocal, hey, call you out if you're not doing something right, get on your back too much. I mean, so there's different levels of it. I think some of those really good players, Scott Rowland was a great example of that. Just a very quiet guy that just went about his work and did it better than anybody, and never made a really big production about anything, but he just spoke without speaking. And he was one of those guys that, hey, Dave, you want to go grab a little Chinese food up here, up the street? There's a really good spot that I like going. You're like, oh, hell yeah. Going with Scott Rowland to dinner, man. I'm a rookie. So, and, didn't even talk about much at all about like, leadership or anything, or how to be a big leaguer. It was just more like, I think the best ones really just show you, they just kind of live that life, so they don't need to say it. And I feel like that's one of those things that gets lost sometimes. And talk about travel ball world, is that there's you gotta show what you want your kids to be off the field. You got to live that life, not only when you're just yelling at them to hustle out a ball or wear the uniform correctly or show up on time. So many coaches don't do any of those things. And I think that's like a big missing link that we see it nowadays, is that there's just so many teams that you don't get that as much. You don't get those kind of those lessons learned, so to speak. It's almost like the players have to teach themselves nowadays.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and when you can have a player, there's so much to be said that when you have an older player that just takes you and say, hey, let's go to dinner, and you don't even have to talk about baseball. You talk about life, but there's something about that they're kind of opening that door. It says, okay, you belong here, because sometimes you need, I know I needed that reassurance, because I struggled big time, in that area. I'm like, am I even good enough to play here? And I think that's what most people go through. They have to wait to have that success, right?
Yeah.
I have to get those couple hits first. I got to get that win or those few strikeouts to then I'll believe I'll belong here.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you have a facility, right? And are you continuously upgrading is what I've been seeing with that?
Yeah. So our big thing right now is adjusting to this virus. So the big thing that we got going on right now that I'm really, really excited about, and it's already kind of catching on, is this indoor collegiate summer league.
Yep.
So we've thought that, I don't know if summer is going to be able to be the same this summer, with college, in respect to college players finding their summer ball teams and being able to start on time. None of them are going to start on time. They've been pushed back to July 1st. Some have been canceled. So we thought, we have a huge facility. We have this ability to convert our cage area into a huge one-on-one pitcher versus hitter area. We'll get live streaming, really nice high level live streaming, very good high def. Be able to, at your home computer, zoom in on the hitter, on the pitcher, and all of it overlaid with the Rapsodo numbers. Yeah. And we're going to have all the data that's going to be created there. So we've created teams, and the nice part is we're going to create. Hopefully, we have 8 teams is our goal. Maybe we get up to 16 if we're able to get a good traction here. But each team has 9 pitchers and 4 hitters, including the catcher. And you play 3 games a week. You have 3 pitchers pitch each day. So you're going to go 3 innings, 3 innings, 3 innings. So that's going to allow us to keep the numbers low so we can continue to do social distancing and make sure everybody's spread out. So it's only going to be 7 people on one team, 7 people on the other. And that's it. That's the only people that are going to be there, besides some of the people that are running the day-to-day. We'll have an umpire. And we'll be able to get live ABs. We'll be able to control the innings. We'll be able to control the at-bats. We'll be able to not worry about a team not fielding a good player behind the plate for a pitcher who, now has to throw half his speed just to make sure he doesn't get a pass ball on him. We all know these summer ball situations. We've scouted long enough to know these things. So now we can control it. And then scouts can come to it, or they can just tune in, look at the roster, see who's throwing, who's hitting. And then there's the other dynamic of all these pro players that are going to be looking to try to get some live ABs, live innings. So we're going to open it up to the pro players as well. So we haven't really mentioned that out publicly. This is the first time I've kind of talked about it publicly here. But if there's players that need to be seen, or draft guys that just haven't pitched in a while and teams need to see them, and they've been staying in shape, they want to get some ABs, they want to go against some top end pitchers. It just seems like it's just going to be tough to find fields. College teams and high school teams, they have to play on campuses, and I don't know if campuses are going to be really excited about opening up for baseball tournaments and games before they've actually had students on them. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's going to be to take that responsibility, right? If in case something did happen, the liability that happens with that.
Bus rides and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity though for guys, because I know you talk to the local players and they're just itching. They lost their season. They're like, I wish I just had some type of way to go out. And as a hitter, you're like, if I haven't faced live pitching and then I got to go and wait another, maybe it's a couple months to the summer, maybe it's not even till the fall. So like the juniors that are going to be seniors, right? They're screwed in a way.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
So it's kind of an interesting scenario. Well, that's awesome, man. Is that something that you could possibly do live? Like you have different camera angles and things like that?
Oh yeah, everything is live. Everything is going to be doing it with data live and pitching live and hitting live. I mean, it's going to be two teams playing against each other, and then you'll never play the same team twice. So it's a good schedule. It's very hitters are going to benefit the most. Those are the people we have to get the word out to, because they may get 240 at bats in 8 weeks. It's an 8-week season, so they're literally going to get almost half the at bats they would in a freaking whole pro season. So you can imagine they're going to be able to see probably 7 to 9 at bats per game.
That's awesome. And if you're a player listening to this, is there somewhere they go to sign up for it? How does that all work?
So they can follow, they can go to my Instagram. I got my personal Instagram is PFA Strong 1, but we also just created an Instagram for that exactly. It's called PFA Indoor League, and they can go there, get information. The website's pfafitness.com is where you can get to the link. I think I don't know the whole link of it's pfafitness.com/indoor-college is the website. So, but you can go to my pfafitness.com page and find that. Super easy to get to, and then you'll be able to get all the information on there. We've listed all the different packages that you can get. You can just get a bones basic. Hey, I just want to get ABs. I don't care about Rapsodo. I don't care about video. I don't care about stream. I don't care any of that stuff. You can do it that way. And then you can go to the silver package, which is just now you get your Rapsodo data emailed to you. Then you could get the whole thing. There's a gym there, so we have workouts. We can tailor the workouts for you. There's a whole 3 different options that people are signing up for, and we've gotten good turnout already in just 2 days of announcing this. And and also we're going to have college coaches are going to be there too. So I've already got about 3 commitment for college coaches to be coaches. So to give you that summer ball kind of feeling. So we've got coaches from some of the local colleges that are going to be out there, just helping just when the pitchers and hitters are throwing, just like you're coming out and you're just having a conversation with the coach. So it's going to be neat. We're going to have a lot of things going to it. That's going to be, I don't think no one's done it before like this. So we're going to hopefully make it really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, you got to come up with the creativity of it, right? To get kids in a position, and, they're heartbroken that they lost the season. And I think we're about to find out at the time of this recording in the next day or two, actually how many rounds we have for this 2020 draft, whether it's 5 or 10. And then after that, it's a free agent, frenzy, if you will. If you're
another comment, a whole other topic.
Yeah, if you're a junior in college and you don't become a top 5 round pick, and if that's a scenario, that's a tough situation. So
big time. I know.
Well, good, man. Well, hey, Dave, we'll wrap up with, just what would you say in regards to you pitched in the big leagues, you had your battles, you had your injuries, you talk to kids every day. What's like your number one, would you say, message on the mental side of the game?
On the mental side of the thing, Tim Corbin, we had on a couple of weeks ago, he said it the best, I think. And he summed it up in just saying, you have to care. And if you care about everything, not just baseball, but you care about your looks, you care about what's for dinner, you care about how you train, you care about how you play, you care of your teammates. If you can use that word and use that in more than one topic or subject, I think you got a good chance of making this thing go. And when you do care and you find people who care back, that know the game and know how to instruct, and they put you in a good, successful place, don't forget that as you go up, because just going up the ladder doesn't mean the coaches are getting better. The facilities might be, the cities might be, but it doesn't necessarily mean the coaching is going to always get better. So just know it as good as the coach teaching you knows it, and you'll be able to decipher what's good, what's bad information as you go further along in this career.
That's great. Yeah, that's good stuff. Anytime you get any advice from him, that's pretty good stuff. So
yeah, man, he was awesome. He's
awesome. Well, I'm excited for you and your growth, with what you're doing with PFA baseball, and it's been cool. It's been a long time. I mean, it's been, I don't think we faced each other in the big leagues. If I'm not, I don't think minor leagues a long time ago. So it's been a long time. It's been fun following you. Yeah, but I appreciate you coming on board with us today.
Of course, man. Anytime. We'll talk to you, Chad.
Okay, man. Have a good day.
Bud.
We'll see you.
See you. Bye.
Okay.